right, well, good morning. Excited to see you guys, talk to you about what's going on within the program, get you updated about kind of where we're at, and then also where we're going as we get started this week. We get back into the heart of things with conference play. So we're 1-0 in conference, 11-3 overall. This week starts a Tuesday, Friday cycle for the next 5 weeks. We play on Tuesdays and Fridays in our conference, home and away. We've got 1 week where we play 3 games. We play Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, but otherwise it's a pretty good routine from here on out until we get in the first week of March. And once we get into March, we're in districts play. So that's quickly approaching. Our varsity guys have had a lot of time off. We played Saturday, a week ago Saturday in St. Louis, and we recapped that with you guys the last time I met. So you can imagine how anxious the guys are to get back and start playing again. They've had a lot of time off away from competition. We've had a lot of practice, a lot of opportunity to kind of refine us, see where we're at, get some film work done, meet with some guys. So hopefully when we get going here, starting today against Fort Osage, they'll be in a pretty good rhythm. Our freshman and our sophomore programs are in great shape. They've had a terrific year. Our depth in our program is something, as the head coach, I'm really excited about. So we're going to have guys and opportunities over the course of the rest of the last 2 weeks that are here, and then obviously into the spring, summer, and fall for those guys to really make a mark. We lose quite a few players, so I've been monitoring. I've had, over the last week without competition, I've had a lot of time to be able to check in on those guys, talk to some people, watch some games, and so I'm really excited about the depth that we have in those programs and moving forward with that. Fort Osage is today. We go to their place. Fort's a really, really solid team. Really well coached by Josh Wilson. We've had some great battles with them over the last 4 years, so I'm sure tonight will be no different. And then Friday, we have William Chrisman, who will come in, and Chrisman comes in and we'll have our Coaches vs. Cancer game, do some awareness for Coaches vs. Cancer that night, raise some funds, girls, guys, double header. So a really neat night and something that we're certainly looking forward to. So that's kind of an update about where we're at. With that, open it up to you all for any questions.
What do you think is going to be the biggest struggle the players must overcome to do well in the next upcoming games?
It's a good question. It's our time that we've had off. We've had more time off basically from St. Louis till when we play tonight than you have at any point during the season. So we played 4 games the week prior. So the fact now that we have to wait for all these days to pass before we could play again, you hope you've practiced well, you think you have, but now you go into a game environment, a game setting, and see kind of where things are. So if we're able to get our, I'd call them our game legs, or our game shape back into us and make our adjustments early, then we'll be okay. But I have no idea how that's going to look with such a long layoff in between.
How does the future of North basketball look like, meaning the incoming freshmen and sophomores?
Yeah, I alluded to that earlier, and I think that that's something that as the season winds down for those guys, you're a little bit more mindful of. We've never had more players playing in our program than we've had this year, and so that's a couple things. One, that's great because we've had good interest, but 2, I remember back into November we had some hard selections that we had to make, and we didn't select some players who probably are good enough to make our team in other years, but this year, because of the quality of depth, because of the senior leadership, the amount of guys that we had, there were some good players who didn't make it, and there's some good players who are playing, sophomore ball who sometimes would play JV. There's some freshmen who are at the freshman level who sometimes would be playing JV in other years. So I'm certainly excited about what the future holds. I've got an eye on that, and I've got it in the back of my mind, but obviously, this team deserves our attention right now to try to make as big of a run as we can with these guys, and then starting in the spring, we'll really have a better idea of where we're going.
What are some overall strengths the team has this year?
Well, I asked the guys that exact thing on Saturday when we practiced. We did an activity and had them give me some feedback about something like that. But, experience is one thing that I think is a positive now. You can have bad experience too, and that doesn't help you. So the experiences that these guys have had over time has allowed them and afforded them the opportunity to learn from it and to be better because of it. So experience is one. You guys hear or you've seen coaches talk, and we watch the Royals and the Chiefs, and like everybody gets up at the end of the year and they talk about how great of guys there were, how good the chemistry was, how they loved playing for each other. You don't hear a lot of really, really good teams at the end of the year talk about how much they hate each other and they're glad the season's over. They usually talk about how much fun they had, how much they liked the guys, and all that. So I think that the chemistry of our team is a very real thing. Those guys have been together for a long time. I mean, for some of them, the personal friendships go back to grade school. But they've been together for a long time, and then playing with us, at the varsity level, a lot of those guys for 3 years. So I think that the chemistry, the experience, and just the fight, they've got a mature and tough fight to them. They don't get too frustrated. They don't get too down. They understand the game's 32 minutes, and those three things are what a mature team should look like. And I'm glad that we've got that as an advantage in our back pocket.
What sets this team apart from teams you've coached in the past?
Well, it's you don't want to compare teams, I think, because sometimes it looks a little insensitive to the other team, because it's like comparing siblings. It's like, well, you aren't like him, or you aren't like her, and then it's like, well, do you like him more than you like me? And so I try not to compare teams. I will draw from different things. The depth of the senior leadership is something that's very strong. Our second Final Four team had guys who had been together, played together, that 12-13 team. They have similarities. This year's team has similarities to that 12-13 team because of the maturity of the senior leadership. We don't have as many petty things that go on. We work more consistently at practice. There's more carryover from scouting reports, but that's just a experience maturity thing. So there's some comparisons there, and the easiest comparison to make is the number of seniors in leadership. We had 9 seniors that year. Players. We have 8 senior players this year, so I think that's part of what goes into it. But I think that's an easier question to answer when the season's over and I look back on it and I can draw from, well, this team was like this at this point in the year, this team was like that. But conference play will dictate a lot about how I feel and how I see these guys.
Is there someone on your team who's like a rock and keeps everyone steady and keeps everything going?
They kind of take turns. That's a really good question. They kind of take turns at it. So I think those seniors, what the juniors, sophomore, juniors see from those guys is a consistent approach, is the way that, we'd like things to be. But at the same point to your question, we don't have a guy who has to call team meetings or one guy who has to stand up and speak. Each guy's got their own personality, and we're obviously respect that with our seniors. So Joe Barry might be more of just the workman-like, really consistent worker, and then occasionally he'll say something kind of behind the scenes, but he really won't speak up in a meeting, where J.D. Braden is just so tough that his toughness in practice and in games stands out to guys. So what's neat about this group is if there was just one guy, that's when you sometimes run into problems, because if that one guy has any off time, if that one guy's not there, then that's when they get, kind of out of sorts. But with this group, there's a lot of guys who are pretty solid and who, as a staff, we know we can count on.
How is Coaches versus Cancer important to you?
Well, I think it's, there's countless. We could do an entire, press conference about the stories, the impact, the disease, and it has on families and on people. And so, what does it mean to me? Well, it's the most important thing about it is it helps people, so that means something to me. I think that's the right thing to do. Our guys try to do that. We try to do that. But I think that if you look at the way that the awareness gets brought to maybe a younger generation, I think that's something that's neat to see. When you get older, it's a little bit more, you're a little bit more aware about some of those things. You've had some more life experiences where maybe your, mother, father, somebody has had or been impacted by cancer, and you can kind of feel it a little bit more. But with kids, and sometimes you guys feel invincible, or you feel like, I don't know if that really makes sense to me or if that impacts me. And when you see it on a big picture stage, when you're expecting to come and just see a game or just see a competition, and then you kind of have to take a step back before that and you see, wow, this is a pretty big deal. This is bigger than me. I see how people are emotionally impacted by it. I see how that awareness to it is something that I think is really, really important. And it's just something that obviously we support and we want to, give financial contributions for, but sometimes the awareness of is equally as important.
What are your expectations going into conference play?
That it's going to be a really, really rough go if you're going to be good in our league. There are Raytown is playing as well as anybody in the city. Staley is sneaking up on people. They haven't played a ton of games first semester, so they're starting to cram some games in. They had a great win last Friday night at Smithville. There's not going to be an off night in our league because we know that we're going to get everybody's best shot. So we've got to be ready to go. And then there's some really quality teams in our league. So, we have had some success in the past few years, but one of the things that we've struggled in is our conference road games. And so we've really got to make sure that we've got to focus about how we go about our work and our business in those, because, if you win all your home games in conference, that's great, but that's only 6 of them. You've got 6 others that you got to take care of somehow. So our expectation is that we need to take it one game at a time. We need to be really focused, really locked in each time we play, home and away, and respect the opponent that we've got.
What does the morale or mood of the team look like going into the next games?
I think it's good. I think that that stuff changes really quick. You stink tonight, their morale's going to be pretty bad. So we haven't played, so they kind of forget, and everything's great, and I hope that continues. But again, I've said this probably too much today, but the experience of a lot of players being there and all that is what makes it more consistent. It's easier. We're more level, as opposed to being more up and down. And when we're up and down like that is when we start to see some things with teams that then you can't control. Whereas the more consistent we are, the more we could spend time on situational coaching, on late game strategy, on plays, as opposed to trying to make sure that our morale or our focus or our energy or those things are right. I feel okay about where they're at. But like I said, ask me next week after we've played 2 conference games. With that, I'll wrap it up. Appreciate everybody coming in, chatting about our program. We're excited about getting back into the swing of things. Hopefully you guys are too. Friday night will be hopefully a well-attended game with Coaches versus Cancer. I know there's a lot of activities and things going on that are being promoted. So look forward to seeing you all out there at that and seeing you as we get going. So thanks again for all your support.